Good morning, guys. How are you doing? It's Saturday here. I hope you guys are fine. I hope your family is fine as well. So remember, and like always, Saturdays are for trade recap. So this is definitely my trade recap on GBPUSD, and I'm going to be touching on the trade I definitely took throughout this week that just ended. So let's jump into it. So here is my 4-hour time frame on GBPUSD. So what happened was after marking the high, the weekly high and low of the week, I definitely was waiting for price to break. So eventually price broke above. It broke above the high of the week and then broke above the psychological level definitely that was acting as a resistance. So at this point in time, as it broke, I definitely knew or rather saw that price eventually is going to retest back that level. So I went in, as you can clearly see, around 46.5 or 46.4 pips. So that was the break that happened. So I then went into, I was waiting for the pullback. So let's jump into the 15 minutes, which is my entry time frame, which I definitely use to execute my trade. So let's just check what happened. So definitely, I'm not gonna lie, this week was definitely tough. It was tough, mentally draining, and there wasn't much movement. There was a lot of frustration for me because I just kept on waiting and waiting, and it was very, very boring. I'm not gonna lie, which is the most boring part. Waiting for your setup, waiting for confirmation, waiting for price to definitely align. So what happened was eventually when I saw price broke above the psychological level and above the high of the week, I then was waiting for price to retest this level, the high of the week. So what happened, as you can clearly see from this place, when price retested this level, I went in for a buy trade on GBPUSD, risking 30 pips to make 100 pips, which you can see that gives 3.33 ratio reward. So what happened was price eventually did what it did, and then I got stopped out on this trade on GBP USD. It was very, very tough. I'm not gonna lie, just waiting and waiting. But what happened? I got stopped out, and that was it on GBP USD. So I'm gonna fall to USD JPY as well. So let's go to USD JPY. So like I always do, I always want to retest. I always want to recap my trades for the week to see how the trade went eventually and what happened and what didn't happen. So as you can clearly see on 15 minutes on my USD JPY, I saw a set setup here. As you can clearly see, let's go back to the 4 hour time frame also, so you can definitely see why I definitely was thinking that way and saw that as well. So this is the 4 hour time frame. So what happened? The same measure, a break below or break above. So what happened was the break below definitely was 50 pips. So when I saw that, I definitely knew price was definitely going to come back to retest this low of the week, or in some cases retest the psychological level that's going to act as resistance to push the market to the downside. So what happened on this case, as you can clearly see on the 15 minutes, I went in while I was on the trade. I was definitely also on profit, you know. So price eventually did 50 pip movement. Price eventually did 50 pips. It did 50 pips. So when I definitely saw, I knew definitely that at this level, which you clearly see, that the market was going to sell. So I entered the sell market, targeting, risking 30 pips and targeting 100 pips. So while the trade was in my favor, I definitely reduced my risk. I tightened my stop loss from 30 to then eventually I tightened to 1 pips. So that's why you can clearly see. But what happened? This trader entered it in the night, rather around, I think, let's see what time I entered the trade. I think around Tuesday. That should be Tuesday. It was around evening or so or thereabout at night. So I entered, and the intention was to enter this trade and close the next day. So that was the intention, to enter and close the next day. So why the trade definitely did the 50 pip, I was definitely still holding, reducing the risk, like risking only 1 pip. And while on this trade, I slept up. And when I slept up, I woke up and I saw that price eventually has definitely pulled back, has given this reversal pattern, or rather have reversed. So I then definitely closed off and also messaged the group to say close off on this trade. I slept off. So that was what happened. So we got just closed off on little profits, on this USD JPY set trade. So definitely that was my trade recap on USD. So in all, definitely price eventually came back and then started buying. So from the 4 hour time frame, you can see that price eventually came reversed and definitely was buying. So price was eventually buying. So you can clearly see it reversed, then broke above to the upside, and then price was eventually buying. Like USD GPY started buying for that day. So definitely this was the trade recap on USD JPY. So on gold, because I definitely traded gold, and earlier the week I then said I was waiting for a retest on 37,000.00. So as you can clearly see, after marking the high and low of the week, price eventually came. You see, came but not so retesting, not triggering this level. So price definitely never triggered this level of, as you can see, my lat is still set at 3.73700.00. So price eventually never triggered that level, but eventually went up. But what happened again? Let's jump into 15 minutes. So on my 15 minutes, like I said, I was waiting for price to get there. It never came back there. So I was looking for an opportunity to go in to join the bulls on the market. So on this day, I definitely saw price broke above this level, and then I went in around 12 pips. I was risking 12 pips, but why the trade definitely moved, I definitely reduced it to 5.71 pips. So what happened? I got stopped out eventually. I got stopped out. So that was what happened on that day. I think that day should be Thursday. Okay, on Thursday I got stopped out. So what happened again yesterday? I definitely saw around this level again, and there were fundamentals coming in. I went in with 12 pips stop loss, and then I went in for a buy on gold. So I went in for a buy on gold. You can clearly see that was Friday on around 1:30 p.m. I went in for a buy, and because we weren't having lights, it was low shading. I had to go out to try charge my phone and all that. And while I was there at the store where I was, I then went in for this buy. So I went in for this buy, and you can clearly see price eventually did what it did, and then broke above it again, and then put back, retested the level, and we see some buy candle coming in. So around this time, because of there wasn't connectivity and all that, I closed up this trade around this place. I closed up this trade around this place. So because there wasn't convenient and I couldn't monitor, I couldn't check, the network was just all over the place. So I closed up this trade because it was just becoming a lot of emotion in place. I closed off on this trade, so I think at around $5 or so. That's what I closed up, and then when I checked and left that place, I then saw that price eventually has broken above and came to this level, and then as you can clearly see, the market has officially closed for the weekend, and you can see that price eventually did at least. Let me calculate how many people movement the price did eventually, so we see, just to be sure, just to be sure. So price definitely around 31.40 peak movement on gold. So I already closed out my, like I told you, I closed out around $5. So that was definitely my trade recap on gold. So that was what happened eventually. So I funded $56. So currently I'm down with 2 point something dollar, or three, not $3, 2 point something dollar. So I definitely, because I closed up early, like I said, I was definitely down on 2 point something dollar. So that was definitely what happened, and that was my trade for the week. And it was a very tough week because there wasn't much movement. It took time. There was a lot of fundamental news, high impact and medium impact as well. So it took time for price to eventually play out, but eventually price eventually did what it did. So the week was definitely more draining because of a lot of emotions was in play, and there wasn't any much movement in the market. So that was my trade recap, and that was what happened. So I want you guys to smash the like button. I want you to subscribe for more.